What's up guys, welcome to this new video. We today are looking at the Drown Audio VFX breakdown, where I'm going to talk through what I did to get some of the effects and sort of pull back the curtain if you want to see sort of how I did it. Here's the side-by-side of the whole video, of all the VFX from the video. And now I'm going to just show you how I did the majority of these shots. If you're new around here, my name's George, also known as GFA, and I am 50% of the Mavi Smith founders, along with Matt. So I do all the VFX stuff here, all the visuals. So what you're seeing here will be just me letting you know. I'm not professional, I'm still learning, so I'm still honing in my skills and getting better and better, but, you know, considering where I was 3 or 4 months ago, this is a big step for me, so we're going to just talk through the steps. Now, here you can see After Effects. Now, I'm preloading the shot just so I can reveal it a bit. I will be playing it back in potato quality, and that being a quarter of the actual quality of the shot, purely because a lot of these shots have a lot of intensive elements built in. And what we want to avoid is buffering and sort of rendering times. You'll see the full clip afterwards where you can see it in the perfect quality. This is just to show you how it was done, so there's no need to see it in full resolution. This shot in particular, which is the first shot, which is the drone shot, is quite difficult on After Effects because of the fact that the drone records in 4K, so huge file sizes, so it takes time to sort of get through those. So I'll talk about the shot anyway. So the shot is the drone's panning and we see a tank in the field destroyed and there's smoke pouring out. And then what I did is I added a drone flying above just to give it a bit more of like that battle effect. I did actually want to add more smoke into this, but because the smoke is generated smoke, it is not a green screen element. I made the smoke. It kind of makes it difficult to have loads and loads with the current technology that we have, because we don't have these super powerful computers. Sort of rendering that would have just been an absolute hassle, and it wasn't a shot that was worth spending that much time on because it's a 2-3 second shot, albeit the opening shot, it's enough. So we've rendered enough here. So as you can see, the camera pans and we've got a tank, smoke, and the drone. So the drone's up here, again potato quality, you'll see it in the full thing. And the smoke. So the way I did this was first of all I tracked the shot. So we have a 3D camera tracker here. The 3D camera tracker, what that essentially is doing is finding points in the footage that it can track, and then it's creating a 3D environment based around those points. That allows me to drop 3D elements into the shot and they follow the motion of the camera. What it's basically doing is creating a virtual camera. So instead of having a camera doing this, it's making a fake one. So when you drop a 3D element, the 3D elements will act accordingly and move accordingly as if they're actually in the shot. So once it was tracked, as you can see, these are all the track points that we found here. So I chose a plane that's just a nice flat plane, and then I used that to basically track the rest of the shot. The tank is a 3D element. We have the tank here. It's built of essentially just smaller pieces, lens, tracks, and the base model. We have a blur to make it look like it's a bit blurry. We have added noise. I add some noise to any 3D element in a shot like this because, as you can see from the drone footage, there is some natural noise and grain from the fact that it's so far away and it's picking up all these little things, and the camera quality is, you know, it's not the best camera in the world, so there's naturally going to be grain. So we add grain to the element, and a drop shadow as well, to just makes it look like it's there and that the sun's casting a shadow on it. The smoke particles that are going up was made by Particular, which is a Video Copilot plugin. I then went in and added levels. Lumetri color, just lowered the colors, made it black instead of white. again, we don't want the smoke to be grey, we want it to be dark, like there's oil burning or petrol, you know, that usually lets off a darker smoke. It doesn't emit like a white sort of steam. It's this dark black smoke, metal, all that kind of stuff. A fast box blur, again, to blur the smoke. It shouldn't be in focus. A, it's rising into the sky, so it's going to have a bit of motion blur, and B, the camera's moving, which is going to add a normal motion blur. It just sits into the scene a bit better. The last thing that was added was just the drone. That's just animated up here, as you can see, flying through the shot. Again, no real reason for it to be there, just thought it added a nice element. And here's the shot. The next shot we're going to talk about here is the shot where the explosions just hit and everything's dust is going everywhere. Again, I'm going to try and make this on a lot quicker because I'm trying to speed this video up. I don't want it to be super long. So this, again, very basic effect. So you can see here, we're in the wrong effect anyway. Where is it? Here we go. You can see here, the initial shot, the original video, is Matt chucking dirt onto us. So we're laying there. So there is some real dirt there just being chucked onto us. So what I wanted to do is try and keep as much of the real dirt as possible when the fake dirt comes in as well. I basically replicated and masked the dirt from the shot and then moved it. So as you can see here, we now have 2 bits of dirt coming down that's been slowly masked and feathered. And then here 3 bits, and then here 4 bits, and then here 5 bits. So that then makes it look like there's a lot more dirt. And it's quick, so you can't notice the fact that it's just masked and fake because it's from the real dirt. And then with that, I added some atmosphere at the top, some smoke, so it looks like there's sort of dust above us, a bit more to the top here, and then a bit more to the side to make it look a bit darker. And then I added things called cork hits, which are bullet impacts, but the reason I added these ones in particular is because they have these little bits of cork that are flying around and they look like mud and dirt. So when they're all turned on, there's loads of these small particles just drifting around. It adds to the grass, it makes it look a bit more realistic. And then here, what you'll have here is generated particles. So I did generate some particles, as you can see here in the darkness, sort of falling, but they're very faint. So they just add a bit more depth to the shot and makes it look like this. Okay, the next shot we're going to do here is the slow motion shot with the sun reflecting in the background. This, again, I'm going to go very quickly through this one. You have the initial shot, which is just Will and I in slow motion, you know, me sort of banging him on the shoulder, quite a standard shot here. I then added in atmosphere. Again, this was just to have a bit of smoke, and it's very faint, as you can see. It's just a faint layer of this sort of dust and smoke to make it a bit more gritty, and that was tracked in. And then I tracked in a lens flare. And the purpose for that was essentially, I wanted it to look like there's sun shining through the bushes behind us. I wanted that to look like, you know, there's that high-pitched sort of glazy look, this faint sun in the background. So that's what this is here. It's just a lens flare that's tracked into the shot, and it adds a nice little feel to it, as you can see here. Okay, this next shot, if my face is a bit red by the way, between the last shot and this shot I did just have a very spicy meal and my lips are on fire, so apologies. Okay, so the next shot we're going to look at here is actually the shot of our good friend Will being shot in the head. In this shot here, probably one of the more complicated shots of the video, and that's purely because I had to sort of rebuild Will's head. So what you'll see here is the bullet coming in and colliding with our good friend's head or helmet. The bullet penetrates the helmet and kills him. Now the bullet is quite simply a saber effect. A saber is a free plugin from Video Copilot. It's made or was designed purely for lightsabers, but you can add any kind of effect to it and you can choose any kind of preset. Use it for all different kind of things. I've used it for many things. If you've seen the Mavi Swift gaming intro bit where the lightning's going around the outside, that was all done in the saber effect and I just sort of animated it. But here it's used as a bullet, so you'll see this line here is the saber effect, and that's basically the bullet's trail. So the bullet comes in, and you probably won't see this in the normal video because it's very quick, but as you can see it just looks like a tracer, because a bullet looks a bit fake. In real life you're never in a million years going to see a bullet fly past really with your naked eye, but tracer rounds you can see, mostly at night, not so much during the day, but they are very bright. And tracer rounds, they do exist. Now they do just look like long streaks of lasers, but in this case I kept it small. So it flies in and it collides with the head. So first of all we have sparks, we have the dink with the bullet hitting. The next shot the sparks are gone, and now we're getting the blood, the exit wound and the blood coming out of the head. So it's spurting out, and the blood is made from multiple layers. So if I jump into this pre-comp here, you can see there's so many different textures and stuff, so we'll go through these one by one. I had to build a reference frame so that I could remove the helmet, because in the initial footage the helmet rolls off. It just sort of just drops off his head. But obviously in the main footage it's flying. So what I had to do was, for this sequence here, from about this moment here, the real helmet, or sorry, the fake helmet's long gone. So as you'll see, this head here, as you can see when you zoom in, is not his real head. In real time, the helmet was still there. So what I had to do is get a reference frame with a screenshot of his head with the helmet off, which is what you saw here. And I basically took this and cut it out and then reattached it to his head. So what that gave us is a fake head in the moment where the helmet was still on. So you can't really tell, but obviously in real life here, helmet's still there. So then what I had to do is just get rid of the helmet. I actually used a new feature that came out this year, I think it was April, in After Effects called Content Aware Fill. And what that does is it basically removes an object from a scene for you. It's easily done yourself if you're happy to go through and basically use a clean plate and mask out the object. But if you want to use this new effect, it's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it is good, and it does save you time. So I used a content aware fill feature of After Effects. I didn't have to manually paint it out, and that removed the helmet pretty much for me. I'm not going to go through the tutorial of how to do that. You can find tutorials how to use content aware fill. It's quite a long process, but not something I'm going to get into now. The next segment was to add a bullet impact. So this is a bullet impact that is actually it was on the helmet and then transferred onto his head. Again, it's covered by blood, so you can't really see that. The head replacement, as I said, so what you're seeing is a fake head come in. It's up to this point, the helmet is still on his head. But from the second the bullet hits, obviously the fake head comes in. And then this is the helmet replace. So I had to build a fake helmet. So what I did is I took the real helmet, a screenshot of the real helmet, and basically brought it in as its own entity. So I just cut it out, and then it allowed me to just chuck it around, because obviously the real element existed. Added a motion blur to it, and you can't really tell that it's fake. I animated it rotating as it fell. Now, if obviously a real helmet, when it's upside down here, the straps would probably fall down because of gravity, although the lateral forces may keep them up. So yeah, it's coming off the head, flying back, and then just falls behind the grass. And all I did for that was I just masked out the grass, and the helmet then just falls behind the mask, which disappears as it goes down there. The rest of the effect is sold by motion blur and the blood impacts spurting from the head. And as you can see, this is just a blood impact element that's just sort of coming out and falling down, and then there's the blood mist coming out. So all in all, it gives you this nice effect of the bullet hitting and flinging this fake helmet off. In this shot here, I then added the bit of the stabilization to the shot of the running, and then yeah, that's pretty much the entire shot there, as you'll see here.
Sir, yes, sir.
Okay, so the next shot here is the shot where the cigar is shot from my mouth. This shot caused me a lot of stress, and I'll explain why. And it's because it was all because of what we did on set. In this clip here, as you can see, there's these artifacts. You can see like this blurring line that's coming up here. That's because in real life, as you can see, this little blurred line here, there's actually a piece of string or a bit of like invisible sort of like piano wire sort of material attached to the cigar. And the reason for this, we wanted to keep the cigar real and have it actually fly out of my mouth. It just sort of benefits the shot a bit nicer. So in the original clip, what you have here, and you'll see if I turn off the effects here, so you can see there's plenty and plenty of these effects. Bosh, bosh, bosh. Is this piece of string that's like attached. Now, the reason this is a bit of a botch job and why a lot was learned is if you have string that is loose and that is blowing around in the wind, the simple wire remove tool is not going to do the job. Now, I could have used content aware fill, however, the content aware fill wouldn't pick up the string, it would have been hassle, it didn't look right, the content aware fill couldn't distinguish the wire. The other option I could have done is manually painted out the background, but because this shot at the time was a shot that we were running out of time to get finished, I didn't go in and do that. So I kept with the wire removal tool, but I added 3 of them and I basically layered them so that over time different parts of it was being removed. So I was basically removing the artifact from the other one removing. So it was layering this 3 layers of content of the wire removal tool, and it made it, you know, not so noticeable. Put it this way, not one person has mentioned to me, oh, what's that? So it's obviously only noticeable to me because I know it's there, but when you have them all on, it doesn't look as bad. So that was how we got rid of that problem. Then we come to the rest of the shot. So what we have here is basically just a track of the gun firing. So the reason this shot there's quite a lot going on, obviously this gun isn't really firing. As you can see here, as it shoots, you'll see the charging handle going back, which is also the shell ejection port going back and shooting these shells out. Now obviously that wasn't happening in real life. In real life it was just like this, nothing was happening. Obviously the smoke wasn't there and the flashes weren't there. That's all been added after the fact with a lens flare. So I had to add that. So I went in and I basically painted out these fake elements from sort of pictures from the internals of real guns, and I plopped them there. And then I painstakingly animated the charging handle moving forward and backwards, which basically resulted in this shot here where it looks like it's actually firing to an extent and ejecting bullets as it goes. Now there are actually shells being ejected here, but because it's quite fast and the speed of them, you can't really see it happening. But there are, if you look here to the left of the gun, you'll see like there's shells ejecting here. Now there's then a smoke layer on top of this, and the smoke is coming from the front of the gun and the ejection port, and I wanted that to sort of look like the gases were coming out of the gun, and it made it a bit more visceral, a bit more sort of there and present was this smoke coming from the barrel of the gun in the heat of battle, and I wanted to get that sort of heat and grittiness in the shot. So that was the purpose of the smoke, and yeah, that's pretty much the shot in a nutshell. There's a cork hit element added here, which adds all this sort of fake elements flying around, and then just put a new cigar in the mouth and then continue to shoot. And again, had to paint out and animate this moving back and forwards to make it look like it was shooting. So when you get the shot, this is essentially what you get, which we'll play full now. You son of a gun. So I'm going to skip to this one because this is the shot that a lot of people sort of asked me how I did it. It's quite a it's a very straightforward shot. Now the reason I went for this stealth bomber model is because A, it was in the video co-pilot pack and they're all good quality, and B, the best thing about the video co-pilot pack is they all have rigs that you can animate, which basically means the models you can actually animate the gears and the missiles and the canopy and the flaps and the ailerons, and everything moves. So it's great for when you want to do a visual effects shot and you want to have something moving and, you know, the ailerons sort of moving. That was all done in this shot. If you look closely, you can actually see all of that happening. In this shot here, what you'll see is, I might have to put it to potato quality, is the ailerons and the flaps and everything moving. As it's flying through the air, we then have the 3D camera that is tracking it and bringing it closer and moving it around the scene. The background is a 4K sky image from, again, Video Copilot, and there's a bit of lighting coming from one side and a bit of lighting coming from the other side. So you have a bit of an orange light on the side with the sun, which would be the left side of the plane, but on the right for us. So here you see that this is quite orangey, and this side's a bit darker because the sun is hitting this side, and that's being replicated by basically an ambient light. There's also a heat distortion effect over the vents and the grills of the front of the plane here. And that's so that it looks like sort of the engines are hot and doing their thing and, you know, propelling the plane. And you've got particles, and the particles are just these little follicles of, again, just like air, and it makes it look like it's sort of drifting through the sky and there's a bit of cloud going through, and that's again just to sell it a bit more. So as the camera moves around, you've got this sort of like cloudy mist over the lens, and then as it pans around and goes underneath, we see the bomb bay doors open and we see the bomb drop from the bomb bay. And as you can see, I actually did put the Mavi Smith logo on the inside of the bomb bay door. So if you haven't noticed that, go back and watch the video, or you'll see the clip in a second, and you actually do see the Mavi Smith logo briefly just on the bomb bay doors, which was a nice little touch. So then it pans around, it animates, and then we see the sun in the distance, which is a lens flare, and that is just providing us this nice sort of lens flare that's hitting the side of the side of the plane, but it's supposed to replicate a sun, of the sun, sorry, and it just adds a bit more to the shot. It didn't have to be there, could have just been the background, but I liked that sort of like glare that's coming from the distance, because you would get that, and if you look closely, you should be able to actually see the pilot in his cockpit. And that's what it actually looks like. It actually looks a ton better in the 3D model. I added a lot of noise and grain to make it a bit more blurry, as you'll see now.
Mike, 105, 2 times GPU, ingress from the east.
We read you now as clear 1-2. Continue ordnance.
And this brings us to the final shot. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this one is mainly because I quite like the logo animation, and I enjoyed the ending shot, so I thought I'd talk about it. Again, it shouldn't take too long and there's not too much to it, so we'll go from here. The bomb again is just a 3D element. I actually took the real bomb from the plane because I wanted to keep it as real as possible. So what I did was I separated the model of the bomb, the actual GBU, from the stealth bomber, and then I just turned off the stealth bomber. So what you're seeing is the actual bomb that was dropped from the stealth bomber in the original clip, which I thought was quite cool. It's just a nice little touch. I mean, you can't tell. I could have put a potato in the distance and just blurred it, animating it through, you know. So this is the actual bomb. It's coming in, hits the ground. You get a nice explosion and a rumble. I took the real Drown Audio logo, which is here. It says Drown. It's got the red circle. It's got a white background usually rather than transparent, and the black text. So what I did is I took that, I traced the text and the logo with an auto trace, put that onto its own layer essentially, took that, added a saber element to it, which you can see here, and then took the core type from layer masks. And what that does, it makes that saber element, does this nice effect of the saber element of all the burning fire, but from this logo, and that can obviously be done to any of the saber elements, and it gives it this nice sort of quite visceral, like real looking fire, and it's all blurring, and it's taking it from the logo, and it was quite a nice little finishing touch for the video. And that's it. That's the breakdown. If you want me to do a full breakdown of any of the effects, or you want me to talk about specific effects or specific parts of effects, and you want me to do sort of more of a tutorial on one of the effects in this video, stick it in the comments and I'll be happy to sit there and do a more in-depth video based on a specific effect or how to do it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video and the next VFX breakdown, which will be coming maybe sooner than you think. Stay tuned. Thanks guys.